Good evening, Tech HR. So we have the panel set. Once again, welcome to the panel and welcome to this wonderful evening. Friends, we have 3 bouncers outside, so whosoever has got in, you can't get out till the session ends. So don't even attempt, right? And anyway, there's too much of traffic, so I'll make sure that you have good fun for next 55 minutes. I've been doing it for last 3 years, friends. This is the 4th year that we're conducting this debate, and if Esther is here in the audience or Team People Matters, I just want to tell you what I love the most about this event is when you walk in, there are 25, 26 startups, and each guy claims that their code is going to change the way HR operates. So I love that spirit, right? I love who changed, doesn't matter. But they have that spirit and believe that they're going to challenge the elephants, and then they're going to go and make their space. So I love the spirit. Congratulations to Team Esther. And you didn't clap, so we are 6 of us. You can clap 6 times if you want. Okay. So friends, the format is very simple. Those of you who have participated in previous debate, we have one simple rule. You don't have to switch off your mobiles because we want you to use them. I have many friends. I have Airtel and many people sitting here, so use them. We have Airtel CIO here. But don't use them for calls. Use them for social media. You can shower your praise, appreciation for all 6 of us on social media. And the second rule is if you don't like what we are talking, you can write a private email to Esther. It's her problem. She got us here, right? So that's the rule for the day. And next 45 minutes, we are going to just go ahead and if there is a presentation, I can request for a clicker if anyone is listening to me. Is there a clicker I have? So if I can get that. So friends, the day, this one. Thank you. All right. So friends, you all know the debate theme, and before I tell you why these particular panelists are here, let me just give you a very quick context of the next 50 minutes. The first part that we looked at is what the future of work is going to look like. So I'm going to present just one slide, which is very cluttered, and it's intentional. I picked up the most cluttered slide because I wanted to tell you how the future of work is going to look like. So if you see many circles there, right? Many of them talking about it. Very well-researched document, but you see 6 larger circles relatively. You see that? Yeah? The first circle talk about the visible world. The world is about visualization, data or anything. The second large circle talks about the amplified individual. Do you agree with me? Individuals are getting more and more amplified, social media, everywhere. The third circle talked about diversity redefined. People are not talking that cohorts are bad. Don't put people in women, young, old. Use unified ways of diversity. That's diversity. So it's getting redefined. Fourth large circle talks about science at work. You know, we all use algorithms today. We have robotics entering in life. That's the 4th trend. 5th, which says sustainable enterprises. We want to give meaning to our work. We want to do CSR. And last, which is health as a workplace fact, right? Health is going to be an important component. If the world of future, the world of work is going to look like these 6 threads, then friends, what are we doing with HR technology? So the debate theme is that what our experts think on 2 parts. How many of you are from pharma industry? Any of you from pharma? Few of you. So ma'am and sirs, you would know that in that industry, the customer who's your customer is the doctor, right? But your consumer is the patient. So HR tech is pretty much like that, correct? Who's the buyer? HR department. Who's the user? The employee. So the biggest debate is that are we going to somehow manage or converge the 2 or not? So the debate theme is customer versus consumer. I would have really liked you to sit on the left side if you believe on the consumer story, that the world belongs to employees in HR tech, and on the right side if you believe the world of HR tech belongs to HR department. But I don't want to create disruption in the hall. So you can mentally take a position and we will figure out what you are thinking. All right, so that's the mental position you can take, that who will drive HR technology agenda. So that's the context, friends. We've chosen the panel very carefully. We have 2 CHROs. You all know CHROs. They will represent the CHRO community. My friend Rajesh, Global CHRO of Welspun, will represent real economy. He's worked in the so-called Brave New World, but today he represents the real economy. I have second CHRO, which is Babu Vittal, who represents the CHRO from a Brave New World. He comes from Shop Clues. But we thought a lot of times HR's biggest friend and nemesis is CIO. Do you agree with me? And we have the biggest friend, the way you look at it, which is Harmeen here, the CIO of Airtel, and she's going to present and share her views in this whole journey of customer versus consumer. And then we have someone who's really talking of the product, the head of product for Hotstar. We all know Hotstar, we all use Hotstar in our daily lives. So we have someone who can really talk tech stuff here, sitting there. Thank you, Varun. And we have Premlesh, the CEO for Career Builder, so represent not only Career Builder, but the HR product community and the CEO community. So all 5 of them will be very, very candid with all of us. But friends, they do not speak necessarily the view or opinion of their companies. They represent the fraternity. Is that okay? And we all will take positions in our heads and candid positions. Are we going to become the part of HR department while deciding HR tech, or we are going to think like an employee while deciding HR tech? All right, so with this, I'm going to start asking all the panelists, and all our conversations will be Twitter-like. We'll have 2 minutes interventions so that we can take maximum questions from the audience, and we have few panel threads. First, I would like to start from Rajesh. Rajesh, starting from you, in next 2 to 3 minutes, each one of you can share your views on the theme first before we start the first thread. Over to you, Rajesh.
Thank you. Am I audible? Yeah. Thanks so much. I think if I were to quickly look at it in 2 to 3 minutes, it's going to be a little challenging. We'll build the conversations as we go along. But if I were to look at it, outsourcing and process creation, process transformation was the first big wave. Subsequently, we in the HR world, I wear a double hat. I lead HR, but I think my heart belongs to the consumer side as well. So it's a nice debate between the heart and the mind. I'll talk a little bit about it. The second wave was clearly a consolidation and integration of bringing the entire life cycle of HR together. So what we typically used to believe as a hire to retire is possibly a recruit to retain today. But I guess integrating and putting all of that for our own convenience, whether it is dashboards or whether it is reporting bit of it or whether it's managing some bits and pieces of life cycle, call it conventional stuff in terms of performances, career tracks, etc., etc. But the real shift that I see, again, the balance between the heart and the mind tells me very clearly, if I were to pick each of the segments of the life cycle of HR, and then there is a real challenge which is emerging, which are the clear opportunities. So if I look at career tracks, who on earth worries about a career tracks today? People are saying, give me an experience. I don't care. Don't plan for me for the next 20 years, 30 years, 15 years. I don't care. So it's the experience bit of it. We in the enterprise talk of cost of resources. They're talking rewards are important. Tell me what are the rewards. We're talking about talent. And all of us know, the amount of talent that really progresses. Global statistics tell us that's only about 20-30% that progresses. We still keep doing our talent bit of it. But they're saying, show me the purpose. We're saying resources. They're saying, show me the life. When we finally show them life at workplace, they're saying, give me work at life and not life at work.
Well said.
I think the list goes on. So the shift is clearly there. I recognize it. I think that's what I'm saying is the conflict between these. So I'll sum it up to state that there's a fantastic opportunity. Even if you were to talk of culture per se, which we drive from an organization standpoint, people say, not my type. So I think those are the kind of reactions that come. So it's like a rail track. That's the enterprise. That's the employee. The tolerance of the compliance is between. You can't get that wrong either. So I'll leave it as contentious as that, and we move on. Yes?
So Rajesh says rail track, but he's still walking in the middle, which is dangerous. So we'll make sure by the end of the show, you stand on the other side, either of the sides. So over to Babu. And friends, please remember, there is a digital app through which you can ask questions. The best question will get the gift at the end of the session from SumTotal. So keep sending your questions. We will show them on the screen. Over to Babu.
Yeah. Good evening. For me, there are many things which are changing. I agree with Rajesh that there is a beautiful shift which is happening in the minds of an employee. Nobody is thinking about 5-10 years of working in an organization. If somebody could work with you for 11 to 12 months, then we should be really happy about it. And we actually show projections saying that, hey, our average age of employees who are with the organization is more than 12 months, and we get appreciated by our CEOs. So that shift is a beautiful shift I would refer to. One thing which is very, very constant and consistent in terms of not changing is budget for HR. We get funded once in our lifetime. When I say lifetime, lifetime of my tenure in one organization is lifetime. We get funded only once, and we have to use it to the core. So when I see a lot of people who walk into me, startup founders who have beautiful solutions which they want to sell, and they come by and say that I'm going to solve all your problems, I'm like, really? My problem? I don't think you can solve. The only person who can solve my problem is the CEO, and he's, I think we bought a system. Are you fine with it? Like, yeah, we are fine with it. We just can't move beyond that, and one thing which is constant and consistent, never going to change, is our budget. Now, when our budget is not going to change, what have we done in the last 7 to 8 years time frame? We have created a lot of processes, because that's the only way through which we can live. So we created processes, we fell in love with all the processes, and then we started ensuring that nobody can violate our processes, right? So my process, how can you question that? I'm not going to change it. The only way I would change it is I would further make it even tougher, right? So that's the space in which HR folks live in. When you are walking out of a meeting with any of the CHROs and say that this guy is not going to fund me, it's not true. Someone sitting behind me is not going to fund me. That situation has not changed. But everything else, there is a paradigm shift. I'm very happy. Customers are happy. Consumers are happy. There are a lot of things which are happening. Somebody can go and share this with all your CEOs. Please ask them to increase the bandwidth of funding for HR.
So friends, big hand, very, very candid thing. But there's also a view from the other side that HR always have enough budgets to try and time to try something second time. So, but good to hear your views. Over to you, Harman.
So my HR doesn't seem to have the constraint of the budget, because they've got a...
Shrikant is there on the 7th row.
Yeah, exactly. But I was going to say the reason because of that is because if they can't buy anything, they just come to the CIO and say, go build it for me. But I think my perspective, actually, I'm going to keep it very simple. Throughout my career, I felt the biggest strength of any organization is its people. It's by far the biggest asset that you have. Anything and everything you do to invest in that asset, you can never go wrong. The world is moving towards embracing technology like it's never done before. And the employees in every organization are doing that as well. It's a professional as well as a personal choice, both of them. And you can't, if the more time we spend fighting that and thinking, do I have a choice? That's actually all time you wasted where you could be doing something. Also in organizations, I think if you're not keeping up with the trends, you're going to make yourself very redundant very soon, and you're going to make your organization very redundant very soon. I think every HR person probably should be sitting next to the CEO and thinking through that, is this our Kodak moment if we don't change? And the biggest part of change coming through that is the disruption coming through various parts of technologies. So the time is not just here, the time is already passing us by, and we better jump on that bandwagon. And everything else will fall in line. If you're very determined as an organization, you've got to go get it done. Whether it's, we've come over in the last 8 months, we've come over every regulatory constraint, to every budgetary constraint, to every mental constraint. The biggest barrier is what we put in our minds. That's the most difficult one to cross. The rest is, if your CEO is not giving you the funding, change the CEO, yeah? You're the HR person.
So the power is with CIO, it seems. So, but thank you, Armin. You saved our diversity quotient of the panel. At least we can say that gender diversity is there. Thank you so much. Over to you, Varun. We would like to hear from you.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. So we spend pretty much all our time obsessing over building great products that are innovative, that users, at the end of the day, unabashedly love. And the way we do that, essentially, is we have 3 teams who work really closely together. We have product management that has to essentially figure out what to build, where to focus. And the way they do that is we keep our ears to the ground. We connect a lot of dots from disparate sources. So in the morning, we might read TechCrunch, keep up with the evolution of technology, keep up, in our case, keep up with what's happening in our industry, which is the media industry, and keep up with what's happening within the company. And all of this drives a product strategy, which in turn drives our product roadmap for every quarter, which essentially is a list of priorities that most materially can move the needle for our business. So it's really important to have clarity on what is the North Star that can most materially move the needle. What is it that matters most? And in our case, we look at watch time, which is a measure of engagement, which is directly correlated to our ad inventory, our ad revenues, and is inversely correlated to our subscriber churn. So once we have our roadmap set up, then what we do in product is we work really closely with designers. And design, it's interesting, there's design and engineering, and design is an art, and engineering is probably not, it's more of a science. But in design, we want to build products that are beautiful, elegant, intuitive, ultimately useful, easy to use. And there's a whole bunch of principles that we subscribe to. Simplest of things, that every pixel needs to earn its placement. And another one that I love is we want to build products and user experiences that are consistent across all our platforms. We have small screens to the big, 60-inch living room screens. And we want to be consistent unless we can articulate a good reason why it makes sense to be inconsistent. And then once we have product developed, and it takes, the way the process works is it's an iterative process, and it can take numerous iterations, obsessing over simplest of things like fonts and gradients and opacities. And then we work with engineering teams to build products that are super low latency, because nobody likes to wait around for screens to load, that can scale to hundreds and hundreds of millions of people without any degradation in quality, and that degrade gracefully when conditions are not optimal. It's very easy to build products that work in perfect conditions. It is a lot harder to build products that don't fall apart when something is not perfect.
Interesting.
So those three things come together: product, design, engineering, to help us build world-class products.
So Varun made it sound very simple, though it's not. So Varun, when you said watch time, tell me candidly, friends in HR, do we still track what's the usage, or do we track adoption? In HR world, we are still at adoption, not looking at, like he's talking of watch time, we should start looking at usage time, matrices on each user-friendly click. So we are not yet there. What the consumer tech is, HR has a long way to go. But we'll come back to you for that. And Premlesh, would love to hear from you, the view of a CEO.
Yeah, so am I audible? Yeah.
Yes.
So I might be a little bit controversial.
Go ahead.
Especially Rajesh and Babu. Apologize me for that. As a service provider and as a CEO of a company which offers product services or technology services to businesses, I'm going to purely talk from the experience standpoint, that what we experience at various businesses or various interactions with a whole lot of people. The first thing what we realize is that the stakeholders in an organization who have to make decision about HR tech do not necessarily talk to each other the way they should be. What I mean by that is that the perspective of the CEO might be different than the perspective of a CIO, then the CHRO, then the CTO, etc., etc. As a business, we have classified 5 stakeholders in each business whom we need to engage with so as to drive a decision, which could help them to make a decision whether they should buy Carebuilder products or not. And to simplify this whole piece, I am going to kind of use a sales terminology which is known as BANT, B-A-N-T. B stands for budget, A for authority, N for need, and T for timing. So unless and until, the experience is that unless and until we bring all the 4 together, it's very difficult to make a decision. Need might be with the HR department, authority lies with the CFO or the CEO, budget lies with the CFO, and timing lies with the marketplace or the consumer. So unless and until we are able to articulate these things very clearly and build a business case around the need, and then make sure that we are kind of articulating or we are communicating that need and we're creating that business case very clearly to all the stakeholders. So when we make a business case, we can't use a CFO business case to a CIO. CIO has to be explained the language they understand. CFO has to be explained the language they understand. CEO has to be explained the language they understand. So CEO will understand the strategic language, CFO will understand budget, CIO or CTO will understand technology, security issues, compliance, and all those things. So unless and until, the short answer to the whole thing is, or summarizing is, that unless and until we bring all these perspectives together, it's very difficult to make a decision on whether you want to go for HR tech or you don't want to go for it. So my suggestion is that whenever we try to make a decision, we need to take all the perspectives of all these 4 or 5 stakeholders in consideration and then approach the business.
So he's teaching collaboration to people who teach collaboration to the world. But probably that's the problem, and we'll figure it out, friends. So this brings us to the first thread of the conversation that we want to have. Can these two ends ever meet, right? There's not enough place. People are saying, you can't say that I want a complete compliance, my security, my thing, my global team should sign off. And on the other side, there is employee experience, right? So very quick observation I want, but before I ask them, friends, do put up your questions and just give me a show of your hands. Do you really involve your employees when you're making a HR tech decision? And please answer it when you show up your hands, that how many times you as an employee was involved or any other while making an HR tech decision? Tell me candidly. 2%, 3%. Yeah? So now I want to ask people here, and any of you can go, and would love to hear from HR to begin with, that is there a space for both to exist? Employees are not even consulted when a decision on HR technology is made, right? We are in an HR tech conference. Decision is made by HR department. So is there a space, or we'll remain a compliance-driven technology and never become what Varun mentioned, like a consumer-focused? Would love to hear your views.
One characteristic of HR is whenever you ask a question and want HR to take position, they'll always sit on top of the fence. So you'll get a balanced decision.
Sure.
Okay, it's perfectly doable. It's perfectly doable. I think the will has got to be there. So if you look at the huge list of enterprise checklist as far as compliance is a concern, it's definitely valid. But then there's a lot of stuff that's held back due to fear. The will not to do it.
Whose fear? HR head's fear or HR department's fear?
The community. Let's keep it generic.
Okay. All right. All right.
Yeah, and the ask is clearly there. But I again see that the will to make that change, if you're able to convert that fear and control and let go to a positive belief, a lot can be done. And there is a place for convergence.
So he's saying convergence. What do you say, Babu?
I don't see an issue because I come from a place where in the last 5-6 years, when I see in the startup world, we give little respect or consideration to compliance. Don't quote me outside, but that's the way we look at compliance. As far as when we see that there is a solution which will make two ends meet. One, it can make me look smart in front of my boss. 2, it can definitely help employees. That's the second choice, not the first choice. If these two can combine together, then compliance comes at the third place.
Yeah. So what made HR look smarter is the key decision criteria. Well said. You're quoted there. What do you think, Prem? Because you're on the other side. So do you agree with them?
I would be somewhere in the middle. So I
so
think
we have the aisle in the middle, and I think everyone will walk in the aisle. So okay, go ahead.
So I think it's a bit of both. They both can coexist, or they both at times may not. And I think the whole experience revolves around the kind of, or the belief about the entire piece of compliance and other things revolves around trust and security. So if you are able to address them, which at times gets addressed, at times it does not get addressed, at times, like if it is legal compliance or if it is security compliance, at times these guys become very adamant. But most of the times I've seen that they do kind of take cognizance of the business and make decisions according to that. So at times it's a case-to-case basis. At times
Legal and security, two words you said. I'll pick that up and
trust
flip
and
it over to Harmeen. Harmeen, what do you think? Can these two ends meet? And as a CIO, you focus more on security or experience? Candid answer from you.
Always experience.
Wow. Big hand for
Because,
her.
my job is to find a way of securing the experience. And in fact, when I joined, we used to have some kind of policy that you could surface the net only for 1 hour at lunch and post 7 o'clock or something like that. I don't even remember what it was because I never even read the policy. We just opened up everything. My catch with the security team is very different. Let the bird fly, and if it comes back, it's yours. If it doesn't, it wasn't meant to be. So let the guys do what they want to do. And the moment somebody goes and flutters their wings the wrong way, the person is caught, and within 15 minutes, and I've had examples where somebody very senior has downloaded the results of the company on a drive, and within literally 3 to 4 minutes, the security team is in my room and saying, this person, senior most level person, what do we do? I said, do what you always do. Give them a call, and if you don't like the answer, go to HR and get them fired. And I think you've got to keep the balance, but the balance has to be, if nobody did anything, we'd be the most secure organization. But you wouldn't have an organization. So these are all excuses that you've got to, get around. If you want to do something, my job is to find a way of securing it. We run everything, our full HR runs on the cloud. And I don't lose any sleep over it, I love it. Our employees are allowed to do anything and everything. And we teach them the code of conduct policy. Literally, Shrikant helps shove it down their throats. And I absolutely partner up to do that. And if they don't follow it, we have a zero tolerance policy. So that's the only way you can run a very open organization. People need to know what their own boundaries are. The more you tell them this is the boundary, people like me, the more they want to jump over and see what's on the other side.
So she says if people don't use it, what's the point of having security? Friends, I think that's the key. Can we identify HR text which is adopted and used? Not that we've got all security checkboxes right and no one uses it. Right? So next time when we do that, we'll have to think. Well said. Any quick inputs, Varun? Your perspective?
No, I hadn't heard that before. If you flutter the wrong way, be careful not to flutter.
Yes.
All right.
I echo, what Harmeen is saying. It's, I think we try to hire folks with high judgment. And if folks are exercising poor judgment, then, it's a wrong hire to begin with, and there's a bigger problem. So I too lean very heavily towards investing a lot in the hiring process, but hiring again is not a perfect science.
Right.
And then beyond that, once we've done that, trusting folks to do the right thing.
All right. So friends, have you sent the questions? If you have sent the questions, I'm going to ask organizer to put up the question. But before I do that, one quick thread we wanted to pick up. We all have debated and discussed in employee experience that bring your own device was the big agenda. But today the world is moving towards bring your own apps. Right? I don't know if your employees are saying or not. If they're saying, I don't want to use your traditional ERP system, I want to bring my own apps, I want to do my work on that. People have started signing up Slack kind of technologies where sometimes HR departments are forced to authorize and say that, okay, you can use Slack for work purposes. So
Slack is awesome.
Slack is awesome, he says. So I will not ask you the question what star uses it, but the next question I want to ask people here is that, are we fantasizing too much? That is this really possible that you will allow bring your own apps at work, or we will restrict and still debating bring your own device. I mean, would love to hear from you. What's your view?
So I think if it's all about the people and it's all about the employees, then you have to be consistent to that. And I think it would be insane that if 500 people in a company, you have 500 apps for doing the same job. But at the same time, if there is a flock of individuals that are truly bringing an enriched experience and feel something is really good, the best thing is make it part of the policy. Why resist something good? If it is that good, the people love it, then HR should love it as well. And, I have a very broad-minded HR, so we experiment all the time.
So you are saying digital democracy is truly allowed. You bring what you want.
I think it depends on what it is. I don't think it's just a blanket statement. I think certain things everybody can't have their own individual ERP systems, and that doesn't exist. It's the concept itself is wrong. But at the same time, if you want to use different kind of apps for communications within the communities, etc., to make your work easier and life easier, it should absolutely be allowed. So I think it's just putting sanity into some level of insanity as well. But at the same point, it's a very different generation today. We all need a little room to breathe and space to grow. And the only way you get your space is if there are not too many rules. And I don't have a single rule in my organization, not one rule. So and I've never had, in fact, my organization is one of the least where people get fired for stupid things or fluttering the wrong way.
So I'm going to come to Rajesh and Babu to ask this question. But friends, tell me candidly, we decide while deciding a lot focus on talent management. But an employee uses talent management every day. I'll tell you an employee, 120. I did a quick and dirty survey before coming here. 80% of them said, I need technology not for performance, not for training. I need technology for marking my attendance. I need technology to manage my leave systems. I need technology to take care of my payroll and reimbursements. I still take 50 days to get my payment. And I need a good technology to manage my onboarding and exit. These are the 4 areas. And I tell you, whenever we decide HR technology, there's so much of focus on so many other things. So, which makes a life of an employee. So I want to hear from you when we say BYOD or BYOA. What is your take?
Absolutely would take a consumer view on this. I have no questions about it. And all of us clearly understand, we've given our entire life in the hands of a machine, and according to the Nielsen report, we state that 2.5 hours is the average time that we spend with what we have. And if that's life, if that's what it's going to be, why not hand it over a little more in terms of the accessibility to the enterprise as well. Having said that, I just want to answer what Hamin said. I got a little bit of an add-on.
Sure.
I completely agree that, you can't really open the floodgates. But at the same time, if there's an app that I want to bring at workplace, and if it can go through a protocol where I say, you have those drop-downs which is certified by the enterprise, could be a viable start. It could be a little initial crowding, but then subsequently it will settle down. And you can be prudent about what you can allow and what you cannot. Device is still, I would say, it's possibly a no-brainer. It's a given thing. But the apps part of it will need a little bit of a balance. And I thought this could be a little bit of a balance where you put and allow the enterprise to take a little bit of a decision. So I apply for it and I get the license to use, will be a good start.
So our panel is shifting slightly towards the consumer. You see that? You agree with me, right? We're shifting towards consumer. Any quick comments, Babu?
There are no restrictions. As Armin said, employees can bring what they can. What happens is when you start suggesting something for employees, the expectation is that give me an app which is similar to Facebook, right? Which obviously we'll have to go shopping, search for it, find something like that. I would rather better say that you use what you're convenient with. So there are just absolutely no restrictions.
Oh, interesting.
My answer to that is we actually use Facebook at work.
Ah.
Why fight something
good? But for an employee perspective, he or she is using Facebook at work, then using something for leave, and using something for... So the 120 people that I asked, this was their problem. I have all the apps my company has bought, but I'm struggling because they want me to do collaboration on one side, which I may not like to communicate on Facebook at work. I'm just telling you. They say, solve my basic 4 problems. And I don't know if your employees say that, but go back and ask this question. It may surprise you. So fair point. And friends, we have a lot of questions, but before I ask, one question from both of you, the CHROs, and I'm not putting you on the spot, but I want to ask before I ask others, who's your biggest speed breaker in your HR tech decision? Is it the CIO? And don't look at her me.
No, no,
Is it
I'm
the
looking at
CIO?
them now to
is
see
it, is
what
it
they
the CFO? Is it the CEO? Who's your biggest speed breaker in your journey? So he says CIO.
So it was
right?
only a matter of time.
Do you want me to build on it?
No, it's absolutely fine. Babu?
My CFO.
CFO. All right. So CFOs we don't have in the room. So one said
That's a
CIO,
common-
other said
commonly
CFO.
hated
Prem, what is your experience in the industry? Who's the biggest speed breaker? Yeah, sorry, go
Okay,
ahead.
just one disclaimer. When I said my CFO, I represent the community.
Yeah. Yes, of course. It has nothing to do with shop clues. We had that agreement, right, friends? So whatever.
Let's build on this.
Yeah.
I have no disclaimers.
and whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So everything is in these four walls, right? So Prem, what is your opinion? Are they lying or they're truthful?
No, I think I go back to my previous comments, which I made as the initial comments, is that probably my understanding is that CHRO or the HR fraternity themselves are
So the whole journey is covered.
are the
CIO,
main-
CFO,
are
and
the
CHRO are
main-
the problems.
Yeah, are the no CHROs are the main roadblocks, because I don't think CHROs make a very strong business case for technology in HR. I think it's still they just want to address their specific issues or problems in their process, but they don't take a wholesome strategic view of the entire piece and what need or what problems it can solve short-term, medium-term, long-term, and make a strong business case for that.
So
I'm just adding one last slide. I haven't seen even a single CHRO coming back to us and saying that I want to make a business case for this. Please help me to do that. And we know that the kind of discussions we run around with HR fraternity, we know that they are not themselves as well.
So
building a
I
business
think point
case.
taken. So what he's saying is a holistic business case is a must. And friends, before I move forward, I have a quick suggestion to offer. Get 50 employees to evaluate 4 companies, right? Give their voting or rating when you put a proposal. I'm just requesting you do that. They may make the whole business case process so good because they're going to use it. But coming back, so we have few questions coming from the audience. And I'm going to go there because we have 12 minutes left. So first, the maximum votes so far has given to this question. Hotstar is the new Netflix in India. So I can barely read it. So clearly, I feel Hotstar is focused on making consumer happy. Internally within the organization, are you a Netflix? Varun, can you give some insights into customer and consumer equation? So friends, again, as we said, the rule is that when he will talk, he will not talk of star per se. But he will say, you've seen in many companies, the kind of consumer technology you give, Varun, the kind of consumer technology you give, when we think of employees, the similar experience is compromised. Why people are saying, can you share some light to that? And any of you can add, very quick comments.
Yeah, I just say one thing. We tend not to be, competitor focused. I think it's much better to obsess over users and user experience. And if one is innovating and leading the way over there, then that's what really matters. So what's at our center of attention is how can we best deliver user experiences that our users absolutely love.
So, but in the companies, what do you think? Any of you on the panel, would you like to throw on light on this? That there's a huge focus when your consumers experience yourself is very, very different than what your employees you. Any views on that, Arvind?
So I can share a view. It's actually a very practical example. A couple of years ago, within engineering as well, we completely changed our strategy, moving from just running the telco side of the shop to actually creating an engineering department that would create the digital properties, which would be run just like a startup and would be run far more like an internet company. And today we actually have both the cultures that coexist in the organization. And the conscious choice that we had to make, and I've always believed that the only way you can really create the right culture within an organization is if your HR is part of your business and they understand your business as well as you do, because that's what yields the best outcome for people, for your employees. And as part of that, one of the biggest exercise that was done was we created a complete different technical track, a complete different structure. It goes from organizational structure to comp structure to hierarchy within the organization, everything, and we defined every rule that was there on the book in order to create that. And there was, I don't know if there were any big hurdles, but I can't even think of a big hurdle. But you've got to do that, and that's actually kind of a Netflix culture. It's really putting people first, and not just saying the statement, but actually having the courage and the guts to do it.
Sure.
And then you have to overcome whatever comes your way.
Sure. So when Arvind says that, I think there's another interesting question. How do you ensure that customer decides what the consumer wants? So what the gentleman or the lady is asking is probably from HR, that how do you decide and make sure what consumer wants? And would love to hear from you, Babu and Rajesh. How do you decide that?
We,
question.
see, it's based on some of the pain points, what you get to hear from your customers or consumers. I'll keep it simple, from your employees. When you're in constant touch with your employees, you understand the pain points. I mean, that's where the inputs come in from. Most of the times, most of the solutions, what we have found in multiple other organizations where I've worked, is coming in from employees. There are many ways in which you can reach out to employees. Your respective HR teams are masters in reaching out to employees, but we constantly continue to hear from our employees, and that's how we build in solutions. We have never given a solution which we thought that this is awesome and this is something which everybody is going to embrace it, because gone are the days. I think that was 10 years before,
All right.
not now.
I'll
Rajesh.
just sum it up in 2 sentences. It should be more of bottom-up listening than a top-down telling. I guess that's a huge statement. I can speak at length on that. That's number one.
Yeah.
That translates the entire stuff. So if you're listening to
bottom-up
speak ratio-
listening.
Yeah, bottom-up listening to a top-down telling. So that changes the entire perspective.
Absolutely.
And if you're listening to speak ratio can be about twice as much, you become very effective from a consumerism standpoint, internal consumerism.
So there was a poet called Zoc. He said, "Na apni khushi aaye, na apni khushi chale." So the employee story becomes like that. But good to hear this new view. And we move to the. If you can move back to the presentation, if that is possible. The last thread that I want to pick up. We have still 5 minutes. Can we change the screen, please? Screen, please. Can you go back? So the last point that, or the last thread that we had is that mobile and AI, which is the buzzwords all over, in HR, will it fry or not? And the 3 C's, which is cost, control, and compliance, will it cut its flight? So what do you think, these finally are flying off, or still we are just keeping it in my cloud, your cloud, only my app, I'll have one app, you've got to put data on my cloud. All these problems will continue to have. So any one of you would love to hear that.
My opinion, I think the bird has flown.
The board is-
Our employees, everything they need to do, everything is on their mobile device, every single piece. From even and it's not only our employees, Airtel has a very large ecosystem that we work with. We have almost 2 million retailers, and each one of them their full life is fully digitized, it's on the mobile. From every single thing, whether they're acquiring customers for us or raising their own complaints, or they're looking at their commissions, or they're looking at transactions, or they're looking at any other information, or getting money from the distributor, every single thing is on their mobile device. And that's the only way of life. Otherwise, there is no way that we can manage such a large business, one of the, the third largest telco in the world, 2 million retail outlets, and somebody is humanly.
So that's for line.
Controlling
What
and
about
managing.
HR? What about employee?
No, but for employees as well. I mean, they are extended employees, and the same goes for all our employees as well. Every single thing they do, whether it's book their leaves to even, all of our sales guys, they travel all the time. They don't have to book their expenses, etc. We allow them to, if they do it on Uber, it gets reimbursed to them. If they are using their own convenience, their own sales app tracks from where they're going to where they're going, calculates the kilometers, and reimburses the money. I mean, it's all, everything is possible. You just have the intent, need to have the intent to do it. But it's all on the mobile. We're building, probably using AI far more for the end consumer than we are for the internal consumer today. We use it in parts for our recruitment and crowdsourcing, etc. We're starting to use it for some of our entry interview level exams and all that stuff. But I think there's a lot more to come here, but I don't think that, I mean, I don't believe that it is, will it fly or not? As far as I'm concerned, my owner, the bird has flown, I can't stop it.
All right, HR, you feel that?
Not who I want.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would go with this, and I will possibly go a little more as well. I think if you pick up my recent blog, what I've written as far as the AI is concerned is, I'm visualizing where I'm saying there's going to be a machine CEO. I mean, it can go to that extent. The amount of stuff that we're packing in the hands of the machine, and what we're possibly, delivering to a mobile solution, I think anything is possible. And even if I would look at it from an HR standpoint, bringing in the aspects of NLP, the aspects of, bringing in cognitives, creation of fun, all of that are completely possible to be creating algorithms. So there's no reason as to why AI will not get there. And the ultimate destination, I'm saying, is I would love to see a machine running an enterprise. I think it could be a wishful thinking at this stage, but I guess I'll get paid royalty on this platform if someday that happens.
Varun, do you agree
Having
with...
said this, I think all the impossible stuff we looked up to God, I think what's holding us right now is possibly what we don't believe that the machines and the other stuff can do for us. I think it's finally we that we hold either out of
Ourselves
fear
back.
or out of disbelief.
All right, perfect. What do you think, Varun? Is that, do you agree or subscribe to this?
Yeah.
From an employee perspective.
From an employee perspective.
In
I think
HR.
in general, computer science is changing every single industry. This has been underway for years and years and years, and it's reinventing it, and it's great. And what we're talking about here in specific, that too is no exception to it.
All right.
And machine learning of all different types and AI and all its different incarnations are going to be part of our lives in really profound ways.
So you're saying yes again. So
yeah.
everyone is moving towards consumerization. Quick comment from Prem.
Yeah, I echo with Harmeen. It is already there in the space. People are already using mobile apps for various assignments in the workplace, and a layer of AI on that, which is emerging, which will take some more time, is going to be a magnificent consumer experience, so far as using technology in the HR or the employee fraternity is concerned. I think this is already taken off. It's only a matter of time when it reaches to a scale.
So panel says yes, they are hopeful. There is again Urdu poet I will quote who says, "Nayi subha par nazar hai magar." मुझे डर है कि ये सुबह भी रफ्ता रफ्ता शाम तक ना पहुंचे. So I think I just hope what they said is true, and we will see that morning, that mist with this optimism and hope. And I'm very, very certain, friends, that when we started, the panel was in the middle of the rail track. I think towards the end, they are moving towards on the right side of the consumer. Probably the questions that you asked also are hinting us towards that. We have half a minute left, and I'll request each panelist to make a quick one-line observation. If you have to give one advice to the audience here, right, given the experience you have, given the fraternity that you represent, what that will be. And I'm going to ask one line from each one of you, and we'll start from Rajesh.
So the role of HR is going to be to influence people to self-manage. I guess with that belief, the entire transformation gets
Wonderful. So he says self-manage. That's the first part.
This is the golden period to be in HR because every employee wants to be retained at this point in time. There are not much of jobs out in the market, so employees are looking way to remain engaged and remain retained in the organization. So just go pick up something which is really good in mobile and AI, which can ensure that there's going to be a good runway for next 4 to 5 years time frame. Go ahead and implement. Adoption would be 100%.
So he says that it's the golden time. There is a debate that we can have on the second part, he said, which is about jobs, but we'll not touch upon that. But point taken. Harveen, over to you.
My advice to every CHRO, at least, would be proud of how many employees you manage and how many bots you manage in your organization. That's what the organization hierarchy should look about.
Wonderful. Well said. Varun, quick observation.
I would say that I would encourage folks to really experiment with a lot more. There's, I think, a lot of it's very conservative in general, the HR community, and I would encourage folks to experiment and try out different things.
He says experiment a lot, and HR community is not that experimental, and he's not talking about star, right? So we then move to Prem. Prem, last question.
So my simple suggestion is that HR needs to make a very strong business case with direct correlation to the top line and the bottom line of the business.
So,
if you are able to do that, you should get the funds, budgets.
So world is round and round. Prem started there and ended there. I like that focus, friends. So hum hi hum hai to kya hum hai, tum hi tum ho to kya tum ho. I think that's the summation, right? So I think we'll be on both sides, friends. It was wonderful to have you all. I wish I could have asked you to present questions, but the format is such that we took the questions. We exceeded our time by 1.5 minutes, but I think you as consumers will pardon us for that, given the conversations we were having. And thank you, panelists, and big round of applause for all 5 of them. And thank you, team People Matters, and we all look forward to meet you tomorrow morning. I'm assuming you all know the time, so the announcers will do the rest.
How about a big
Thank you,
round of
friends.
applause
Thank you.
for our chair?